Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootleggers, shills, nestlights, service peasants, vassals, minions, meat sacks, hooties. I'm a useful idiot. Welcome. And today we're going to go back to Yemen. And by the way, I wore this turtleneck again today because apparently a lot of my trolls think I'm gay because I wear turtlenenecks. And I'm sorry to disappoint them. I know they wish I was gay, but well, I'm just not. I often say, hell, I'm not gay. I'm barely even happy. But anyway, let's get back to Yemen and this dramatic intervention by Saudi Arabia. We got a lot more information now. And like I say, I'm not prone to do topical scoop news stories these days. But this one's very important. So let's get to it. So we have Saudi Arabia. Let's look at the countries that are involved. Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Bahrain. Those, of course, we expected. And then we also have Egypt, Morocco, Sudan, and Jordan. And one of the questions I had after I did my previous video was, what exactly does Saudi Arabia want to gain by doing airstrikes? Are they going to use the same strategy as the United States in Syria, hoping to turn the tide just by using airstrikes? But as it turns out, they're actually planning a ground assault. And this is where it gets interesting, because I just looked at a Reuters article, and they said that Saudi Arabia was contemplating an intervention, but hadn't decided. And but all the other articles I've been seeing are saying that this invasion will take place. So it just goes to show one needs to examine at least a few sources before going out there and stirring up a lot of fear-mongering. Because one of the other things that was brought up was the idea that there was going to be 150,000 troops involved, which is an eye-popping number and says a lot. But as it turns out, actually they're discussing an invasion using 40,000 troops. The 150,000 troop figure is what Saudi Arabia apparently is deployed along their border or thereabouts. Saudi Arabia has committed 100 fighters to airstrikes thus far, with other planes, obviously from Kuwait, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Bahrain, and Egypt. And so that's quite a few airstrikes. Apparently they were hitting major military installations and key strategic points. And one of the things that's interesting about that, of course, is here we go again. The U.S. or one of its allies, in this case Saudi Arabia, is bombing material that was built by the United States, weapons that were supplied by the United States, although I'm sure all the weapons are gone by now. And as I brought up in the previous video, the country's awash in weapons. There's complete listings of what was taken and probably distributed between Al-Qaeda, the Houthis, and then there's certain special forces and military that are still loyal to the previous president, who also are heavily armed and retain their weapons. So anyway, apparently Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and some of these other countries are going to supply these ground forces, this 40,000 troops. And one source even mentions that Egyptian troops are already off the coast, ready to land, and then there will be another intervention from Saudi Arabia. And of course, it may include troops from Pakistan as well, because a lot of ground troops that protect the Saudi Arabian kingdom have been Pakistani troops in the past. So, of course, one of the other dramatic events is that their president, Hadi, has left the country. So Hadi has left the building, and this is one of those classic post-colonial situations where the present president, who replaced the last president, Saleh, who was toppled after 30 years, there's still a rivalry going on, and Saleh is still in charge of a lot of the military forces in that country that are still loyal to him. So Saleh has a lot to do with the dynamics that are going on in this country, and that's what makes it another classic U.S. foreign policy clusterfuck, is just ending up in these situations where we get involved in these rivalries. But it doesn't matter. The United States supported Saleh, and then once the dust settled, the United States supported Hadi, so we have no problem. And Saleh was deposed during the Arab Spring in 2011, so This guy Hadi's been in charge for the last 4 years, and well, he's in charge of jack shit right now, and Jack just left town. So so there's precedents for this in the past. Apparently, Egypt intervened in the 1960s. And interestingly enough, in that situation, Egypt was entering to fight Saudi forces that were backed by Saudi Arabia. In this instance, they are allies. And then Saudi Arabia intervened in 2009 when there was unrest previously. So here we have the same hallmarks that we see in a lot of these other situations in the Middle East. And I'll go through a list. But first I wanted to mention a comment that a Saudi official made about the Houthis and complained that they are a, quote, a tool in the hands of foreign powers, unquote. Obviously taking a poke at Iran, but the utter hypocrisy of everything that most government leaders say over the world continues to be a boundless source of amusement. So for a Saudi to talk about forces that are a tool in the hands of foreign powers, that could be just about any bad actor operating in the Middle East today, including people that the Saudis support. So I call bullshit. And so let's go through like what do we see here? What are we going to learn? What are we going to see in this new front in this Middle Eastern chaos? Well, we're seeing again something touted as a U.S. foreign policy success turning out to be a disaster. We're seeing the same strategy of setting up a proxy army and flooding the country with guns and propping up a thug, and generally in very undemocratic situations. And this is the United States idea of spreading democracy, unfortunately. And then we have this continual drone war that's been going on in Yemen, very controversial, and there was talk of a potential blowback or repercussions, and well, we have them, whatever you want to call them. Then we also have, once again, another proxy army set up by the United States and its allies, set up that pretty much dissolved in the field, and its loyalty split between all the different groups that are operating there. As I mentioned previously, we have the same failed U.S. strategy revealing itself. We have another flood of weapons, and so just in case there wasn't enough weapons floating around and all over that region, well, there's more. And then we also have a potential for a civil war, and if there's a occupation, and that's what this 40,000 troops seems to indicate, that there will be an occupation in a long-term engagement, and it will be pretty messy because everybody on all sides, and there's multiple sides, are all very, very heavily armed. We also have a situation once again where Al-Qaeda is fighting our enemy. So we have Al-Qaeda fighting the Houthis, and we have Al-Qaeda fighting the forces that are loyal to the previous government. We have Al-Qaeda fighting forces that are loyal to the recent government, and so much like we find in Syria. So how interesting that now all of a sudden Al-Qaeda are our buddies and the good guys and are fighting on the right side, and depending on the country, of course. Now ISIS are the new the badasses. And speaking of ISIS, obviously this is going to lay Yemen wide open for the potential for a serious presence of ISIS to appear there, and that would be quite a crown in their caliphate if that would happen. Certainly Saudi Arabia would be incredibly exposed, and also just the very nature of the country of Yemen is just the kind of place, the kind of chaos, the kind of poverty, the kind of hardware environment that ISIS thrives on. And let's not forget that this intervention, even though all these sides are kind of split up right now and warring against each other, there's nothing like a good old invasion by a foreign power to unite the opposition. So we're probably going to see some of these groups consolidate down and resist the occupation as normal people would do. So that's another effect we can look forward to. And I know there's a lot of sensationalist headlines out there about oil going through the ceiling. And for right now, there's a little blip upwards, or a pretty good sized blip upwards in the price of oil. But I think eventually, once things settle in and the war, we get used to the war, just like everywhere else in the Middle East, we're going to see the price of oil go back down again. And there's just too much glut. There's too much production going on out there, and prices will continue to go down. It doesn't really matter that spring and summer are coming up. And I also find it interesting that we have the timing with the Iran nuclear deal. I'm not exactly sure what that would have to do with it. I think the Saudi timing pretty much has to do with the events unfolding this way, and it just so happens that it's going to play into the Saudi oil play that we've been seeing going on. But it'll be interesting to see what kind of effect this has on the Iran deal. I suspect none, but there will be those who bring it up. And so let's see. And last but not least, of course, once again, we see countries like Saudi Arabia are the ones who are invading their neighbors. So let's see. We had Iraq invaded Iran at one point. We have Saudi Arabia intervening in Yemen a couple times. We have Egyptian planes doing sorties in Egypt, and now going to be in Yemen, and we have all these Middle Eastern countries bombing in Syria and Iraq now, and all this other stuff. I still find it rather interesting that everybody, or I shouldn't say everyone, but there's so much fear out there of Iran, and I don't see Iran invading any countries around or bombing any countries around. I'm sure they operate with proxies like everybody else on the fucking planet, and certainly everybody in that region, layers and layers and layers of them from that region and around the globe. But like I say, here we are where I don't see Iran behaving like all these other countries. But, well, there you have it. That's certainly a topic for another time. So anyway, there's an update on this new intervention that we have of all these Arab countries. The U.S. is supporting them right now. It'll be interesting to, in a big way, it'll be interesting to see if the U.S. gets more involved. I doubt it. I think Saudi Arabia is going to handle this one in pragmatic terms. That's good to see for a change, and well, they should. But unfortunately, the result, like I say, is going to be long-term conflict. It's going to be an occupation. I don't know. So theoretically, maybe they could get control of the situation fairly quickly. It's a very relatively small population. But anyway, so there's some of the implications and details about the situation, and it just adds another layer of complexity to this whole scenario in the Middle East. And undoubtedly, if it's going to continue, these tensions, particularly the Sunni-Shia tension, continues, then we will probably see more contagion. It seems inevitable considering everything we've seen, but I don't know how many countries there are left that haven't descended into chaos. So there's the blueprint. We see it yet again. Yeah, man. Yemen. I'm a useful idiot. Don't you be one too.